Hey everybody, it's Aaron at Warmoth, and bass players, today I have something for you that I think you're really gonna like. So the last time that you saw this body in a Warmoth video, it had a Padauk bass neck attached to it. Today, it has a roasted maple neck attached to it with a Warhead headstock. And the reason why we put this new neck on is because we have a new option for bass players. We now offer a 1 5/8 inch nut width for bass players. And if you are a bass player, you probably already know that the standard J bass nut width is 1 1/2 inches, and the standard P bass nut width is 1 11/16. Well, 1 5/8 falls right in between those two. So if you've always wanted a J bass with a slightly wider nut width or a P bass with a slightly narrower nut width, now you can get the 1 5/8 inch on a replacement neck for either one. And you can get it on all of our other necks as well. Any 34-inch scale bass neck that we offer now has the 1 5/8 inch nut width available. So there's very little playing I can do in a video that's going to demonstrate a different nut width. What I'd actually prefer to do is kind of carry on the conversation I've been having with a lot of bass players. The last bass video I did, it was called something like Why Bass Players Get No Love. And I talked about a lot of the subtle things that bass players do, like leaving a little hole in the bass line for the snare drum to pop through, or like how much power they wield because they are the one who decides what genre the song is based on the kind of bass line they play. And by the way, one thing I forgot to mention in that video that bassists also do all the time is they make the other musicians look really good by changing what they're playing underneath them. For example, a guitar player might play the exact same thing in verse 1 and verse 2, but the bass player will change something in verse 2. He'll change the rhythm slightly, or he'll maybe walk the bass line instead of sitting on the root, or he'll change something. And everybody will go, wow, that guitar player is brilliant. He's a genius. But it's really the bass player that has made them look that way because they've changed the underlying context that everything else is happening on. Anyway, I mentioned all that stuff as kind of a compliment to bass players because so much of it goes unnoticed by the average listener. Even though I meant it as a compliment, it feels like a lot of bass players took it as an insult. And they were like, what do you mean bass players get no love? And they all invoked the name of Davey 504. He's that Italian comedian that does the really straight-faced delivery, who also plays bass. I'm kidding. He's a crazy good bass player. And of course, there are tons of other bass players that play slap style, from Larry Graham, Les Claypool, Flea, Marcus Miller, Vic Wooten, tons of them. By the way, my introduction to Vic Wooten was I saw him with Bella Fleck and the Flecktones at the Woodland Park Zoo here in Seattle, and I was gobsmacked at what he was doing on the bass. And I've seen him a couple of times since at NAMM or whatever, but that first time I saw him with Bella Fleck and the Flecktones, it just blew my mind. And this is to say that I love slap bass, but to me, it's kind of the equivalent of, it's like the bass equivalent of shred guitar, where it's this very technical kind of playing, and it's a little bit kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of showboaty. And that's fine because it's kind of designed to be that way. That's not an insult. Don't get mad. Stop typing your angry responses, because I love shred guitar too. I like slap bass, but it is very technical and very showboaty. And I acknowledge that it takes a ton of practice to do it well. And, there's nothing against that, but it's not what you're going to encounter in like 90% of the songs that exist in the world. Those are more, for lack of a better term, regular bass lines. And that's what I was talking about in my last video. And that's what I was complimenting. So what's my favorite kind of bass playing? Well, I really like fingerstyle funk, kind of Motown, James Jamerson stuff, which isn't that big of a revelation. James Jamerson is tons of people's favorite bassist. But the way he does, you know, it's still kind of a busy-ish bass line, but it supports the song, but it doesn't take away from anything. His note choice is just genius, the way he weaves this bass line through that's almost like its own separate thing, but it just supports everything perfectly. He does a lot of the things I talked about where he leaves little spaces, he gives the drummer the 2 and the 4, the way he times the notes so they make a groove, it's just like perfect. Anyway, I would like to hear, if you're a bass player, I'd like to hear your thoughts on all this, whether you agree or disagree. If you're a guitar player, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Because this is kind of the way I feel about the world of bass. But I'm always open to new ideas. And anyway, that's it. And don't forget, 1 5/8 inch nut width, now available on bass necks. And yeah, that's it. So until next time, wash your hands, be kind, and keep on picking, or slapping, or popping, or finger styling, or whatever it is you do. Keep on doing it.